Hello, Dr. Ron England coming to you from Daytona State College. And if you watch my pure math presentation, you'll truly enjoy my Fractazmic presentation. And Fractazmic is really just designed to help students learn fractions, but do it in a fun way. So these cards, by the way, are being used in thousands of schools. And the schools that use them actually do perform better in mathematics. We've actually documented this whole thing. Neither here nor there. This is all about having a good time. So, first thing I got to talk to you about is the concept of one of the things that happens in cards, which is called the meld. If you've played games that are meld-based, like Gin Rummy, which is a meld-based game, you know that a meld is simply when you put a pattern together, three of a kind, straight, one of those types of things. Well, Fractazmic is based on a meld. So, anyone want to guess what makes a meld in fractions? Really? Come on. Well, here's the answer if it's silent. Otherwise, hopefully somebody shouted the answer because it's pretty obvious. 1. Yes, adding up fractions to 1 makes a meld. With that one simple concept, we can create tremendous games that are a lot of fun. So let's actually look at kind of how this happens. And you've got cards in front of you, hopefully, and you'll get to play them. Get to play some of these games. So what kind of games can we play? Well, anybody who's ever played gin or rummy or gin rummy or don't know the difference between gin rummy and gin rummy, well, it doesn't really matter. If you know how to play one of them, you can probably play them all. The rules are just slight variations on each other. And the reality is that as long as you're all playing by the same set of rules, you're good. Now, with Fractazmic, you can play with groups of up to four people. It works. You've done it. And so let's the basic rules of Gin Rummy. You pull from the card, you pull from the top of the deck, or you pull from the discard pile. You throw down to the discard pile, and you try to make melds. And at some point, somebody's going to say, I'm either out of cards, or they're going to go, I am not out of cards, but I'm going to throw down and yell gin anyway, and try to hope that nobody can beat my hand. Haha. So let's look at what a game might look like. Maybe have a hard time seeing part of the game because, yes, my head is on top of one of the cards. It's the 7/16 card. I can see that there. But let's say how this works. Player one. Player one does something like draws from the deck. They draw a 1/8. They're like, do I want to keep this card? Or do I want to discard this card? Or do I want to discard another card out of my hand? Well, let's say they choose to discard that card. Now, player two goes. Player two can look at this and say, I've got a 1/8. Can I make a meld with a 1/8? I have red cards, 7/16 plus 3/16. That would be 10/16. 1/8, that would be 2/16. That's 12. Does not make 1. Okay, well, I'm going to draw from the deck. Draw from the deck, and now I've got a 1/5. What can I do with a 1/5? Well, that's beautiful because it makes a meld. I put all those cards together, I stack them down, and I go, ha ha, I got a meld. I've got at least one. Player one has none. Hey, you're losing. Okay. Well, I still got to discard a card. I mean, I can't just do the meld. I got to discard a card. So bye-bye. You get rid of one of those cards. Player one looks at that and goes, this is looking close here. I got 3/10. I got 1/4. Anybody that plays this game should know, 1/4. What does that actually do? That's what, 4/16. Ooh, a 1/8. That's 2/16. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That is not a meld. That does not equal 16. I'm doing this fast. I hope that you're all math teachers and you do it just as fast as I can. But guess what? That is not working. He can't draw from there, so player one draws from the deck. This time, drawing a 1/6 card. Well, next thing you're going to do is start looking at those cards. I hope that right now, thinking like math teachers, you're starting to think, oh, look, the kids are adding fractions. What's the hardest thing to do with fractions? Multiplying fractions? No, multiplying fractions is not difficult because you don't have to look for a common denominator. It's adding fractions. And the reality is that even though math books love to have you add 1/79th and 1/91st, nobody ever does that. These are the fractions you use: base 10, base 12, base 16. The denominators are 10, 12, and 16. That's pretty much it in the real world. So guess what the cards have? Those 3. That's why there are 3 suits and not 4 suits. Hey, it still works. Guess what? Cards and decks would work with 3 suits, just like they work well here with 3 suits. But neither here nor there. I gave you a little bit of time to start adding those fractions in your head, and you probably have already figured out that that person cannot do anything because they've got 11 eggs and they need 12. Now, this should be pretty easy to do, even if you suck at fractions or finding common denominator, or finding what the common denominator, because you can just count the eggs. Now, you're also probably looking at player 1 going, oh, look, they got a 1/2 and a 1/2. Why don't they make a meld? Well, the reality is they could, but game of strategy. They've got a green card, to note that 1/2 might come in handy a little bit later. Maybe they're waiting to play this thing. So, but guess what? They decide to keep the 6 and throw the 1. Okay, well, that's probably a good move right there. The 1/12, that was probably a good move for player 1. At this point, if I was player 1, I think I'd actually throw down a meld, but they didn't. So, hey, you don't know what's in their hand anyway. It's all strategy. And as you work your way along, you just basically keep at this. So, how long do you keep going? Player goes till player goes out or someone knocks. Hey, rules for knocking. It's a game. You decide. You stick by the rules that each of you have. Okay? That's how you do it. And because this is used literally all the way down to elementary school, and yes, the elementary school kids can do this well. I think fractions are introduced in 3rd grade. They do just fine. Okay, drawing from the discard pile. Some of the rules you might throw in there: must use the card. Hey, that makes a lot of sense. And if you draw from the bottom of the discard pile, say you're going to do it like gin rummy, you got to use the bottom card, but you also have to keep all the cards on top of that. And as you know, the more cards in your hand, the bigger risk you take. So games that use melds, okay, rummy, pinnacle, fire. Okay, there's some other games. There's other games you can play that use melds that work just fine with this. But hey, gin rummy. Now, I'm going to go over something that's kind of interesting. I had these cards out here. I taught hundreds and hundreds of teachers, elementary school teachers and junior high teachers, and actually high school teachers, because the high school teachers used to say the high school kids can't do fractions, so this will be useful there. And I went into a school, and I'm watching them play a game with the cards, and I have no idea what they're doing. They're throwing down cards left and right, and every now and then somebody would cheer, and I'm like, wait, this isn't a game I thought up. This is a game somebody else thought up. But well, when I talked to the teacher, she goes, I don't know, somebody in somebody else's class taught it to me. And I thought it came from you. And I'm like, it didn't come from me. I did not think up this game. Turns out a kid thought it up. And here's how this game works. First person throws down a card. Okay, if you throw down a card and it adds to 1, boom, you grab it. And then you start the next round, throwing down a card. Okay, if you throw down a card, okay, so here's what happens. So they had all sorts of different rules to this. Basically, the concept of the game was to be the person who threw down the card that ended up being equal to 1. So every time a card was thrown, you'd have to go ahead and do the math in your head. The other thing was they had another rule that I thought was great, is that if you had the card of the color that was down there, even if it went over 1, you still had to throw it. And if you threw and went over 1, if you bust, they called it busting, the person who forced you to bust, basically the person who threw the last card, got the hand instead. Okay? Creative. Have fun. Be creative. This is the point of being, I know there's going to be students here and professors in these math things, but that's the point of being a professor in the first place, is it allows you to exercise creativity. And I had a great time with this one. By the way, anyone's asking, how many games have I created? Well over 100 games with all sorts of different, cards. I love cards. I love video. I love it all. Games are the best way to learn. I love games. It's just a great thing. So there's a rule to this. have fun. Enjoy yourselves. Have a great time. And hey, get into some groups of 4 and try Jim Rummy or try the capture game, or just make up your own and see if the rules work, because sometimes they do. It's sometimes awesome. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a good time trying this out.